Let me introduce myself. I was the Chief Exec of the REC for 10 years, up until March, when I stood down. I've now got a portfolio career, or that's what I call it. My wife seems to think I'm busier than I was even when I had a full-time job, so I'm on the board of 6 different organisations, recruiters, HR tech businesses. But I was delighted when the REC asked me to continue to chair the Good Recruitment campaign. Now, the Good Recruitment campaign, for any of you that don't know it, is something we started 4 years ago. It's about best practice in recruitment. It's based around 9 principles. There is a whole host of activity. We do research, which I'm going to share some findings from. There's networking, there's a benchmarking exercise, and all this is free. All we need you to do is to actually sign up, but we do need to use your brand. So that's the deal. Allow us to talk about you signing up to the principles of good recruitment practice, and you get access to all the things that I've talked about. So what I'm going to talk about this morning is, and I'm going to do all this in 20 minutes, by the way, so this is going to be a bit of a canter. So I'm going to talk about what's going on in the jobs market. I'm going to talk about some of the causes of the impending talent crisis, because if you think we've got a tough labour market now, God, is it going to get tougher in the next 3 to 5 years? I'm going to talk about some of the tech change, so AI, machine learning, what potentially that's going to do. And I'm going to talk about job polarity. That's when people's eyes glaze over. And then to get you back, I'm going to talk about a lovely formula that we've developed. AE equals P. And then I'll just touch on a little bit about the Good Recruitment campaign at the end. So that's what I'm going to cover in the next 20 minutes. So let's crack on. So the first thing that I think is worth talking about is where we are in terms of the UK labour market. You know, you saw the data yesterday. We have over 32 and a bit million people employed, more people employed today than ever before. Our employment rate is the second highest in the developed world, slightly behind Germany. Unemployment has never been this low. The last time we had unemployment at 4.2% was 1970. Most people in this room weren't even born in 1970. So we have a really, really tight labour market. And if we really start to look at it, what we have is full employment. You have 1.5 million people unemployed, but we have over 850,000 vacancies each month. So it's no surprise that employers are finding it hard to get labour. So let's talk about unskilled labour, people to do jobs at the front of our labour market. We have skill shortages, you know, in terms of areas where we are looking for skills and experience. Think digital, think engineering, think many IT skills. But I could go on and on and on. I could talk drivers, I could talk nurses, I could talk doctors, I could talk many of the professions within our organisation. So we've got skill shortages, and then we've got talent shortages as well. And that's where organisations go, well, yeah, of course I want the finance controller to be good at finance. I want them to be numerate. I want them to be professionally qualified. But I also want them to be strategic. I want them to be able to manage and lead change. And I want them to inspire and motivate others. That's talent. And in our labour market, we have labour, skill, and talent shortages. So that's where we are today. And if you then start to look into the next sort of 3 to 5 years, there are some trends that are worth talking about. And that's why I think it's going to be a perfect storm, because you can feel it already beginning to get difficult. And what's just around the corner is going to make the challenge for you in terms of going out, finding people to join your organisations, that much more difficult. So 4 areas I'm going to just touch on. The first one, I suppose, is let's just think about flexibility. We have 15% of everybody in the UK that's employed is working as a self-employed, a freelancer, or a contractor. And there was a fantastic survey done by staffing industry analysts recently of the top 500 businesses globally. Only 66% of their workforce are permanent full-time employees. Just think about that. That means 34% of your workforce are contractors, interims, freelancers. So when we're talking about attracting talent, we have to think about not only do we attract those people, what's your talent strategy for attracting freelancers? and then keeping them close. If you run on alumni, do you keep them close to you because you want to bring them back for gig after gig? But secondly, think about your professions and your managers. If you do a survey of your people, and a couple of employees I've worked with have done this recently and got some astounding findings, many of your professionals and managers are thinking about opting out of your organisation because they can get work-life balance, they can work at home, they can get rid of the politics, they can get rid of the commute, they can do interesting work, not travel as much, and earn the same, if not more. So flexibility is going to create a challenge for your organisation as your managers and professionals think about opting out. The second one, and this is quite simple, this is just demographics. We have less people in the labour market in the next 10 years. It is shrinking. So the availability of people, forget skills and talent, is just going to be less than it is today. Thirdly, millennials, Generation Z, Generation X, or Y, whatever you want to call it, young people entering our organisations. You know, we have got more graduate programs, more apprenticeships, particularly because of the levy, than ever before. So youth unemployment has fallen radically over the last few years. Great news. However, if you really get underneath the aspirations of young people, millennials, Generation X, Generation Y, and Accenture do a great study every 10 years of youths, young people 16 to 21-year-olds' view of work. In 91, 17% said they wanted to be entrepreneurs, run their own business, do their own thing, be in control of their own destiny. It increased rapidly into 2001, 2011. So I'm now talking about data that's 7 years old. 83% of young people said they want to run their own business. They want to think about being in control of their own careers. So what I'm saying to you is the other challenge you've got is all the young people we hire, they're going to suck up your training and development and all the learning that you can throw at them, all the experience you can give them in the first 5, 6 years of their career, and then they're going to think about going out to work in a startup, work in a small business, do their own thing, become a freelancer or a contractor. So I think the challenge is not just of attracting talent, but retaining it are going to be that much more difficult over the next few years. And then, of course, we've got the self-inflicted wound. I don't want to talk about politics, but we have a problem with leadership in this country. I mean, the shambles of the last couple of weeks has been pretty profound. You know, 2 years on, we still don't know what our negotiating position is. We haven't really engaged the Europeans. But anyhow, I'm not going to talk about that, because I shouldn't be talking about that. But just think about the labour market situation. You know, in many parts of our labour market, academia and universities, 37% of our academics come from the EU. NHS, 14%. And I can go on. Construction in London, 33%. If you think or look at our driver population, people working in a whole range of different industries, by sector and geography, we have got 8%, close to 9% of the UK workforce comes from Europe. They are going home, and the ones that have been arriving historically are coming in much fewer numbers. In our labour market, which is as tight as I've talked about, we need more immigration, not less. And actually what we're going to end up with is less immigration, both from the EU and potentially from outside the EU, as the government focuses on a numerical target. So one of the things you need to do when you're talking to the REC or the CIPD or the CBI is we've got to make sure that business is giving the message to government loud and clear that we need mobility in the labour market. We need to be able to attract talent and people to do the jobs that we need in this country. Because if we don't do that, the challenges for you are going to get even harder. So that's why we've got a perfect storm in the labour market. Then what's going to be happening over a longer period of time, and I'm not an expert in technology, I've done quite a lot of work around the future of jobs, is we're going to have a real movement, particularly if you think about the labour market being tight, to automate as much work activity as we can. And there's a great piece of work that was published yesterday by PwC that said the good thing is don't worry about AI because we're going to create more jobs than we lose. Other people say I'm going to have mass unemployment. Forget that argument. That's not the argument. The real argument is job polarity. So I'm just going to show you a quick bit of data. This is about the last 20 years, okay? So this is every single developed nation in the world, and the UK is about, I don't know, we're about halfway down. On the right-hand side, your right-hand side, yellow, that's the growth in high-skilled, high-paid jobs. The next colour across is red, that's low-paid, low-skilled jobs. And the line in the middle are the jobs in the middle of our labour market. Over the last 20 years, in every single developed economy, we have been removing, eliminating, destroying the jobs in the middle of our labour market. So the challenge, and what you then say, well, actually, what happens with automation? Which jobs do we take out? Think bank retailing, back office. Think insurance. It's the jobs processing. It's the administrative, professional, middle-class jobs that are going to be eliminated as we go forward in terms of the labour market. So the challenge for employers is, how do people progress? How do late bloomers? How do you get back into a labour? How do we move people through our organisation if the jobs in the middle are the ones that are being eliminated? So it throws up a huge challenge, both socially, but from an employer's perspective. We really need to think about reskilling, and we need to change the education system, which brings me back to the politics. So we've got a challenge in terms of AI and machine learning. So this is my formula, okay? Now we could have a bit of audience participation. How are we feeling? Anyone got an idea what A is? Come on, guys, audience participation. The clue's in the title. Let's have some, what do we think A's for? This table over here. We are here as talent. Well, that wouldn't be bad. Thank you, Adam. I mean, I said talent attraction, but I mean, you know, same thing. So, first of all, and I want to talk about this because it drives me to distraction. And that's employer branding. And when you talk to people in talent attraction, talent acquisition, and they're very, very passionate about their brand, and you ask them how they develop their brand and what it's there for, it all sounds like motherhood and apple pie to me. We're going to look after our people, we're going to develop them, there's going to be great line management, great place to work, culture, blah, 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 blah. And if you really go and talk to your people and ask them what they think of your organisation, you often get a very different impression. So I think we are very, very guilty, potentially, of creating a promise and then not delivering on it. And I think that means you end up with more loss of skill and talent in your organisations, because you've created a promise through the recruitment process only for it to not be delivered in reality. So one of the things, when I was HR Director at Royal Mail, we spent a huge amount of money developing our employer branding proposition, millions of pounds, and we got rid of it very, very quickly. Because we were in the middle of a crisis, we were losing millions, and what we were saying is, we've got great line management, come and work for us, we're a lovely organisation, there'll be coaching, there'll be development. In reality, you turn up on day one, they'd say, fantastic, I'm pleased you've arrived, that's your job, there's your desk, crack on. Let me know how you're getting on in 6 months' time. So there was no development, there was no training, you didn't see your line manager. So we ended up doing a piece of work which was being authentic. If you're the type of person that's a self-starter, likes to roll up their sleeves, wants to work in chaos and make a difference, we might be the organisation for you. So think about your brand as in differentiation. How different is your proposition from the other people you're competing with? Or is it me too? Is it the same? Are you making the same promises? How authentic is it? So the first thing is, let's think about our employer brands, EVPs, let's make them real. So the next one is around social media and stuff. And I'm not going to labour the point because, you know, I came to this late, but I've got a 23-year-old son. He does everything. He's just got his second job. Unless he can do it within 2 clicks of his right thumb, then he ain't interested. His speed, he looks at an employer like that. That looks like a good job or an interesting organisation. I'm going to send my CV, 2 clicks, done. So your ability to use social media to reach out, to engage people, to get them to look at your organisation isn't a nice to have. It's not the sort of thing that we need to, you know, is there a debate about how we make sure everything's quick? Is it easy how it uploads on mobile? Do we get our brand over on the first page? How easy is it to advertise for a job? Is it 2 clicks? Can I send my TV? Can I look at the jobs in 1 click? You know, just test your own site. Apply for your own jobs, guys. And the one thing I've found having done that, is some people send you a questionnaire of about 50, 60, 100 questions. And I'm just thinking about applying for a job. What happens is, like me, I haven't got a huge attention. I go, I'm not interested, not interested, not interested. So, ease, channel to market. Oh, I will say. So, here's something about candidate experience. This is fantastic. I love talking to recruiters about candidate experience. We're all interested in it. We're passionate about it. What is fascinating is many of you don't measure it. When we surveyed about 3,000 candidates, part of the Good Recruitment campaign, we did research called The Candidate Strikes Back. 80% of candidates said, I have never been asked for feedback about the experience. So think about that if you were a consumer marketeer. I'm passionate about my customers. I'm never going to ask them for a view. I'm never going to measure it. I'm just going to do it. So what we have to do is you have to measure the candidate experience at different points of the process. Not just the people that got the job, not just the shortlist, but everybody that you talk to through the process. That's how you start to measure it and look for continuous improvement. It seems quite simple to me. I see loads of activity on candidate experience, and I go, how are you going to measure it if it's making a difference, if the investment, if the changes that you're making in your process are going to deliver value? And most people go, oh yeah, I better think about that measurement thing. Well, I'd start with the measurement, start with measuring where you are, and then think about continuous improvement. And again, this was another piece of research called Perfect Match. This was a very simple piece of research. We spent, and not many people have done this in the UK, we went out and said, what's the cost of getting hiring wrong? We looked at a manager job, £42,000 a year, and worked out very nice formula. You can go to the research and look at it. But on average, for every £42,000 a year job that goes wrong, cost £132,000. So, start to work that. We then talk to HR. How many jobs go wrong? 1 in 4. Mishires don't work out within 6 months. Start to do the maths. And actually, the cost of getting hiring wrong is really, really significant to your organisation. So if you want to invest in brand and attraction, then let's work out what it costs when we get it wrong. And then, of course, the other question I always, so not a question, the other point I always raise is, and the point is this is transparent. Anyone coming to join your organisation is going to spend a lot of time online looking at what your current employees say. Not just through Glassdoor, but through LinkedIn. You know, talk to Bill Borman, he fascinates me with this stat. Every candidate for your job will look at all the employees on LinkedIn, that they will start with 1 or 2 persons and they will just go through them. And they will then start connecting to people. It's a fantastic way to look at how people are interested in your organisation. But what they'll also start doing is they'll start reaching out and making informal contact. But what they're really interested in is, what's this organisation really like to work for? So for me, you can't hide. Your candidate experience has got to be great. It's got to be modern. It's got to be agile. Your brand has got to be real. So that's the attraction piece. Now, the second bit I'm going to talk about, people in recruitment and in talent acquisition often go, well, we're not responsible for engagement. Well, I sort of think we've got to step up a little bit. Because there's no point having a great funnel to bring people to your organisation if they're falling out the back end of the organisation because the culture's not good, the managers aren't up for it. So I think we've got to step into this piece. So engagement, I always start off with a bit of Bruce Springsteen. I mentioned to Natasha, what do you think of Springsteen? She said, he's a bit before my time. And I'm looking around the audience, there's a few people that wouldn't have been with me in 1975 when I first saw Springsteen. I'm a big fan. So, the reason I talk about Springsteen is because he's the only sort of performer I know that talks about work. And here's a couple of lyrics of a couple of his songs. This is from an album, 1978, Dance on the Edge of Town. People are going, God, he's gone old school here. Now, I've done my best to live the right way. I get up every morning, go to work each day, but your eyes go blind, your blood runs cold. Sometimes I feel so weak, I just want to explode. Second lyric, through the mansions of fear, through the mansions of pain, I see my daddy walking through them factory gates in the rain. Factory takes his hearing, factory gives him life, the work, the work, the work in life. I used to run a consultancy organisation and a strategic HR consultancy. I often had to go into boardrooms and make presentations about people strategy. And quite often the board chief execs would go, incredible insight. Where did you get that? And I went, really? All I did was went and talked to your frontline staff. And the issue is that is still how many people view work within their organisations and your organisations. And if you want to retain people and don't want to be just running a cycle of bringing people in for them to get pissed off, to have poor leadership, poor management in a poor culture, then we need to get involved in trying to change the whole engagement strategy of our organisations. For me, it's most probably one of the most important things. You know, if you go to the whole Simon Sinek thing about getting to why, I'm going to just touch on a couple of stories. And this is when people go, well, I don't get the brand thing, I don't get the why question at the beginning. You know, not just what we do and how we do it, but why do people come to work? How do we create an environment where they can give of their best? And Simon Sinek's TED Talk is well worth seeing. I was lucky enough to be on a platform with him not long ago. And I had a little chat with him at the end. 150,000 quid he was paid for his 45 minutes of speaking. So it shows you what the power of a great TED Talk with a flip chart and a circle, because that's all it was. Anyhow, some stories. Let's just do John Lewis. So John Lewis, in about October, November, my wife on social media starts talking to her friends, and it's coming. I've heard it's going to be out soon. They get quite excited. And of course, they're talking about them adverts at Christmas. And the advert at Christmas, for those of you know, it could be the little penguins around the Christmas tree, or the man in the moon, or it could be the elbow music, you know, the monster under the bed. Fantastic adverts. And what do you do? If you think about those adverts, what's the reaction that you give to that advert? You sort of go, and it makes you feel warm. It's an emotional connection. Never talk of, John Lewis don't say, come and get your Christmas presents here, we're a brilliant shop. Just a nice, warm feeling. Their sales for the last 5 years at Christmas is they've outperformed the market since they've been doing these adverts. Without any reference to shops, Christmas, just a little narrative and a story. BMW, I love BMW. Fantastic marketing strategy. Every time you pick up a glossy magazine, there'll be a nice 7 Series in there. If you ever think of their TV adverts, there'll be a sun-kissed mountain in Tuscany, a beautiful couple. They'll get into a car, the door will slam. Nice, sounds nice. Silence in the car. They'll be driving around a beautiful mountain in the evening, sun setting on a Mediterranean sea, and people go, God, I'd love one of them. Ultimate driving machine. But actually, I've only got 20 grand, so I buy the 1 Series. All of BMW's profit comes from the 1 Series. They never advertise the 1 Series. The 1 Series is a crap car. If you look at all the reports, it's not as good as a Ford Mondeo. You can create a narrative and a story and emotions. So why is really important. So one of the things I'm saying to talent acquisition guys, recruitment guys, is get involved in the engagement debate. Get involved in your organisational culture. Talk about line managers because they're critical. And I could do Apple and I could do WestJet, but I'm going to move on. So, if you get engagement, this is a data. It's from a study across Scandinavia and Northern Europe. If you have upper quartile employee engagement, the employee experience is good, not the best, but upper quartile, your staff are 9 times more loyal. 6 times less absent, 55% more creative, and the P's performance, they are more productive by 31%. So this isn't just doing engagement because it helps us not lose talent and skills, which is important for us because we're hiring in talent and skills, but it actually improves the performance of the organisation. So the reason we need to get involved in this is because it's hugely critical to organisational success. And think about the attraction piece. We need to invest more money, be more effective at it, but But what we don't want to do is just be running on a hamster wheel, hiring people, the good people bounce off, and then you go to line managers, can have another one just like that. Well, it took us, 20,000 quid and 6 months to find them last time. You want us to do it all again? Here we go again. Let's think about the strategy. Where's the talent? How do we go out and find it? We have to work across an organisation and make it more effective. But so attraction, engagement equals performance, but it only works if you have leaders as coaches. Now, I'm not going to tell all my stories because Natasha's given me the look already, the look of get off the stage, Kevin, but I'm going to carry on because I've always been a rebel. And I'm going to just tell you about Scorsese, okay? Martin Scorsese, film director. I was listening to a radio interview the other day with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's made about 5 or 6 films with Scorsese. And it was a fantastic interview, and there's a question. I kept shouting, I was driving, I was shouting at the interviewer, ask the question, which I'll come back, ask the question. Because he started to describe Scorsese. He said, the last time he made Gangs of New York, Wolf of Wall Street, and he was talking about the way he creates his film. He phones me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, says DiCaprio, gets me out of bed to do a scene that we'd already filmed 20 times over the 2 days before. It's because the moon's in a certain direction and the lighting will be fantastic. And he says, in my contract, I only have to work the office hours that I want to work. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, I drag myself, I get out of bed, I go down to the foyer. There's 300 people got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the river to do this bit of filming. And then he starts to say, but he also does other things. I had to be in an ice-cold bath for 12 hours. This is one of the best paid movie actors in the world. So the question I had on my tip of my lips was, why the hell do you do it? And the interviewer goes there. He asks the question. So I'm driving, I'm absolutely like, so why do you do it, Leonardo DiCaprio? Because he can make me the best I can be. He can make me do work I didn't think I was possible. So sometimes stretching people, creating that environment. You look at Scorsese's films. Those people, those 300 people that got up in the middle of the night, they're the same cinematographers, the same sound engineers. They work with him time and time again because they're going to do great work. People are prepared to put in the effort if you're creating an environment where they can give of their best. We've got a huge opportunity to change our organisations, but we really need to invest in frontline leaders. So when I do talks to HR population, I'm very simple in HR. I've done it all my working life, right? 37 years I've been working in HR in one shape, form or another. Been a chief exec, been an HR director, been a consultant, ran a consultancy organisation, now a non-executive director. It's simple HR. Hire the right people and give them great frontline managers. You get that right. Don't worry about organisational design, incentives. Hire the right people. Focus on recruitment. Be brilliant at recruitment. Attract the right people to your organisation and give them good line managers. You get that and you're 99% there. It isn't rocket science, but organisations complicate it. Spend too much time thinking about the comp and ben. Anyhow, I'm moving on. So, final piece of data, and I am coming to an end. Final piece of data. I'm an Arsenal fan, okay? Alex Ferguson's speech at Harvard is really worth watching because they said to him, tell us about how did you develop three great world-class teams during your career at Man United. Tell us about your management, advice. And he went, I can't do his accent. He said, it's not hard. It really isn't hard. It's about 2 words and saying those 2 words regularly to your players. Any idea what the 2 words are? Well done. That's his advice. 5 to 1. 5 to 1. There's a fantastic study by Stanford that says for every 1 toxic employee, you need 5 that are really positive. If you want to look at feedback, 5 positive pieces of feedback to 1 negative piece of feedback. So just, management is about saying well done and thank you, day in, day out, 5 times. Just think about that yourself and your team. Do I give praise 5 times more than I say, oh, you've cocked up, you've let me down. And if you do, you're sort of on the right track. So finally, the Good Recruitment campaign. We'd love you to, how many of you have signed up? Oh, this is going to be dangerous. How many of you already signed up? Right, there's about 10, 15 people in the room. Please go and talk to them people during today. Carol, put your hand up, and Cuba. They are from the REC. They run the Good Recruitment campaign with me. It's free. It's about best practice. It's about learning from one another. There's great research. There's great events. Please sign up, because what we're trying to do is elevate the work that we do. We're trying to talk to government. We're trying to share learning amongst organisations so that we all get better. And that the resourcing debate about attracting talent becomes something that everybody's talking about. So how we talk to business leaders. So please get engaged. It's a great campaign. It is all free. Have a great day, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you.